Okay, so this is the topic about BEQ. So highly encourage everyone to use BEQ. So this is the minidsp 2.4 HD plugin application. Before you start BEQ, you must have a few things. One of it is the hardware minidsp 2.4 HD running on the latest firmware. So you can see that the IP address here is specific and have it fixed on a static IP. So it connects to this through a wireless device, WIDG, that is connected through the minidsp. So you will notice that I do not have a USB cable plugged into the minidsp 2.4 2x4. It's connected wirelessly. So I have this config 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm using config 1 for this purpose, for the BEQ. So as you can see, I've named this in as Oppo in because I'm using the pre-out from Oppo 205 to the minidsp for my crossing actuators. And you can see that I've named this and turn off the rest of the channels that are not in use. And on the output section, this is where we set it to NA. You can change this to ABCD, whatever you want. So I have this as NA and all the other channels muted. So I'm only using crossings. And you can have your EQ here on the crossing, but for the crossing I don't use any EQ. But if you want to use for your subwoofers, yes, you can put in your EQ here. But for my purpose, crossings, I don't use any EQ. But of course, there's a gain setting here. So this is something to do with setting the volume of the crossing, how much tactile, how much shake you want from your crossings. So you can add this according to taste. I had this set at 7, and on the amplifier it's 19. That's a crossing amplifier, so that's a personal preference thing. So as you can see, PEQ is nothing, and the crossover, I've used a gradual roll off, something like 6 dB octave at 15 Hz. Some prefer 10 Hz. So if you set this at 10, you would see it rolls off slightly more earlier, but I prefer it at 15. So it gives me, the kind of layered kind of feeling where it's like a house curve. It's indirectly a house curve here. So it feels much more natural, when there's actually a curve coming down. So as the energy sweeps past, if you can see this, it goes higher, right? So you will feel the gush of movement, as if something just sweeps past you or whooshes past you. You get that kind of feeling. So this is highly recommended. Instead of using a steeper filter, if I go with this 48 dB octave, you see how steep it is, and then this will feel like more one note kind of bass, which I don't really enjoy it. So I would highly recommend using this type of slope, which is a much better slope. And then of course you have compression. So the ratio is set to 50, attack time 15, and release time 30. These are in milliseconds. As you can see, it is applying some form of compression to prevent clipping the digital domain. So if I click on bypass, you'll see now that it is actually bypassed it doesn't say any compression. So by clicking this on, it actually compresses as it approaches the higher volume. So that's something you need to set it. And of course here, these are the delay settings. You set your delay settings, how much delay you want to apply. And for the crossings, I have it 1.2 milliseconds slower than the subwoofer energy, because you want the subwoofer energy to hit you first, followed by the tactile on your chair or on your sofa and things like that. So ideally, some people like to have it time aligned, same time, but I find that if it is at the same time, it takes away a bit of energy. The crossings take away a bit of the energy from the sub, because your body starts to move first before the energy hits you. So that takes away the energy. So I have it slightly delayed. Some people prefer 2 milliseconds, but I have it at 1.5. Some people 1.2. Some people prefer at 1 millisecond or 0.5 millisecond. That's individual preference. Okay, so this section here is where we input all our filters for the sub equalization or the croissant equalization. We do not use the one from the input because on the input section here, this area is where we are going to load the BEQ filters. So if you look carefully, if I click on BEQ, you will actually observe that, you know, the curve looks somewhat like this, upward rising. So this is not actually boosting the subwoofers. What it's actually doing is it's actually restoring content that was filtered out by the sound engineer. So if you see carefully, it's somewhat rising back again, restoring the ULF content. So what all this filter means, so if you see it grayed out, means there's no filter there. So you can see it's the default settings, nothing is there. Now if you see these colors, you can see the numbers here, 18, 4.4 gain and a Q of 0.9. Okay, basically what this means is, you know, it's applying at 10 Hertz frequency, it's reducing the volume to -5 and with a Q of 0.9 with a low shelf filter. So I'm going to show you, this is actually from a movie, The Invisible Man 2020 Atmos version. So if I pull out the picture, you can actually see what this means. So frequency 10, which corresponds to this frequency 10, gain is -5, and you see the gain -5, and the Q is 0.9. LS means low shelf. So what this means is you put in one low shelf filter, and then you see 18 Hertz, 4.4, 0.9, 4 times of the low shelf filter, a total of 17.6 dB. So if you come here, you actually see 1, 4.4, 2, 3, 4. So there are actually 4 filters instead of a single filter of 17 dB. So basically what they want to do is they want to prevent overshoot. That's why they have it split up into multiple filters. And they are all low shelf filters. So it doesn't really affect that much on the timing response because low shelf sort of boosts the thing up the other way. And the final one is the peak filter, which is the parametric EQ. You can see this is described here as PEQ. So it's parametric EQ. And on the mini DSP section, you'll see this as PEAK, 45 Hz, 0.6, and a Q of 1. Okay, you can manually input this by typing down, you know, copying what you see here, or you can use something called a BEQ Designer app. Okay, that's a lot more faster. Okay, the benefit of using the BEQ Designer app is that you can have these filters input onto the first input page. At the same time, you can retain your output settings, meaning that you can merge the two together. You can have the BEQ with your house curve, 2 in 1. So what I would do is, you know, I would normally go into okay, what you can do is you can actually download this through this site. If you go to the website BEQ Designer, read docs, this is the website, and you can come to the getting started, go to the installation, and then go to GitHub page here, and you'll be brought to this page. So you need to download this BEQ Designer setup exe, and you need to run the file. So you have something like this, and after you install the application, it will bring you to something like this, followed by this, and we are at version 0.9.2. So as you can see, this is the BEQ Designer app. You can do your own BEQ movies for yourself, as whatever you want to do with this. You can add your signal, you can add the filters in, you can do your own BEQ files. But we're not going to go there because, you know, the whole idea is to just follow what the AVS guys are doing. So I mean, that's already proven, and it's safe, and it's ideal. It's got a very good channel balance. So we will want to use that. So what we do next is we come to tools, and then we got something called Merge Mini DSP XML. So we'll click on this. Now here is where we download all the BEQ from the repository. You can see that clone the repository. So all these are actually stored in another location in GitHub, where the guys actually do the BEQ file, somebody vets it, and then it gets uploaded into the repository and we synchronize. So when you hit this button, it will start to download the latest movies onto this location, source directory. So I have 3 folders here. If you see on my desktop, this is the BEQ original synchronized file, which is what we've just clicked just now. From here, it's actually downloading it to that location. And then I created another folder here to copy and paste, because this is the original file and this is the it doesn't allow you to modify the files here, so so it's best you copy and paste another file here. And this is the final merged file. So I got 3 folders. One is the original sync, one is copy and paste, and one is to merge, the final merged end product. That means it's got the BEQ filters in and your house curve or delay settings and your PEQ settings, whatever settings on the output section. So the two will merge into one XML file where you load it up as a configuration. So now let's go to let's have a look here. Okay, so when we see this, okay, so you can actually see that, oh, they've just added something, Jaws. They've just BEQ'd another movie, Jaws. We have this recent movie released by the studios, Jaws in 4K. It's got pretty good bass in it. Then of course the config file is where I loaded my BEQ for my output section, where I have a 7 millisecond delay and 7 dB gain, and I've loaded the compressor 0, 50, 15, and 15 Hertz low pass filter at 6 dB octave, so that is where I save my file. So that's my configuration file. It's actually an XML file, you can see here. So that's my configuration from the minidsp on the output side. And so we have the source file, and we have the output file, and then we have the merge file. So what will happen here is that once I've set this, I will, after synchronizing, what I'll do is I'll copy this whole thing across to this folder. I'll paste similar ones here. So you can see these are the latest movies, the latest BEQ files that has been downloaded, Yesterday we have all these new files. And then you just need to hit this button, start. And then they'll ask you, are you sure you want to continue? You just click yes, and then you start processing. So sometimes you need to reset, click reset button to clear all the unwanted rubbish. I don't know what is that, but it's good to reset it once in a while. And it will resynchronize the whole thing. It takes a bit of time because it's resynchronizing the whole thing all over again. I don't know, maybe there's a faster way to just synchronize the difference, but I don't know, I didn't bother so much. I just let it synchronize and let it run in the background. So what we're going to do is now let's look at what's happening when we click the filters. So what will happen here is that I'll go to File, I'll click load configuration to current slot. So if I load configuration to current slot, what I'll look is final merge, the one on my desktop, remember just now. So I'll come to BEQ final merge, and then I'll just pick the movie, let's say The Invisible Man here. So I'll see a few different versions, Amazon, BEQ, Atmos. So because I'm using the Atmos version, if I'm going to watch the Atmos version on the movie, I will use this version instead of Amazon Prime. So because Amazon Prime is also streaming, so if you're using Amazon Prime, you probably got to use this. So I'll load this in and I'll click open, and what it'll do is it will start processing. So I can do this on my laptop because I've got a wireless device connected to my minidsp 2x4 HD. And you just load this on, and once it's successfully synchronized, you will see this curve here, right? That's it. And then what you have to take note is that whenever you see something here, master volume minus 0.5. So what this means is that you have to listen at softer by 0.5. Okay, so say suppose you are so used to watching movies at minus 20 dB master volume. The master volume, you always watch your movies at minus 20. Now if you see minus 0.5, what you normally do now is, for this particular movie, you listen at minus 20.5. 0.5 is because they told you to minus 5, reduce the volume by 0.5. Now if you are listening, if here it shows minus 3, that means if you normally listen at minus 20 master volume, you now listen at minus 23. Okay, or if it is plus 3, then you listen at minus 17 now instead of minus 20. So basically that's what it means. And if you see these dotted lines, this dotted line actually tells you the original content. Now this is what BEQ has done. So if you zoom in up, you will actually see that all the content below this point, which is from 25 Hertz and below, has been filtered out. So now what we are doing here is we are actually restoring the content here. We are not boosting actually, although it does show a bit of boosting here at the lower octave. It's sort of like a built-in house curve on the soundtrack. So this will give you a kind of balance to the entire movie, because what you want is, you want a higher volume around below. As it goes up, from 60 onwards, you want to have a house curve rising upward, because as you go lower, it's more of a feeling instead of sound. As you go up higher frequency here, you start to hear sound and less feeling. So the house curve will give you something, as it goes up slowly, from 90, 80, 70, and then you want to have a very steep filter from 20 to 10 Hertz. This area is very, very nice. You start to feel the energy hit and go, and the best part about it is it doesn't disturb the neighbor. So the things in the house don't rattle. This is the best part of ULF. So this is something you don't want to miss. So yeah, so I was watching this movie. It was fantastic, highly recommended. It's a very good movie, The Invisible Man. I watched it in BEQ, and no turning back. I really enjoyed the movie, and I hope everyone would enjoy. So yeah, so that's about it. I think let me see what other things that I need to add. I think so basically, it uses something called BEQ filters. So if you see carefully, these are actually BEQ filters. So if you bypass, it turns gray. See, now if you turn it on, so BEQ filters are much more sophisticated, compared to the basic filters. It's got these funny numbers, precision, good calculated, a very advanced calculation. They use a very much more sophisticated calculation. Just put it that way. So you want to turn on 6 filters in this instance, and you can see from the graph just now that that's basically what you are doing. And of course, you can also link the channels. If you have multiple subs, you can link it to your other sub, but of course I'm using it for Crossen, so I'm not going to link this across the other subs because I'm using it for the motion actuator. Basically that's about it, I think. Yep, and there you go. So all the files are processed, and now if I load this file, I can actually see. So if you want to see, if I load this, for example, if I load this non-synchronized file, let's say the non-merge file, okay, before that, let's see. Now this file shows you the 7 dB increase and a 7 millisecond delay. Now if I don't do that, if I load just the BEQ file without the merger, let's say I go to top. Okay, so this is my desktop. Let's say this is the original sync file. Okay, let's say I take the original sync file, and I load in the B Miller file. Let's see, BEQ. Let's say the Invisible Man again. Let's take the Atmos. Okay, now let's see what happens. Okay, so that is the original synchronized file. If I load it up, what I'll see is okay, so synchronize. Now this is the original file. See, it doesn't have my settings, but it has this. The filters are in, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It doesn't load at the back. See, it loads in front, and the output, I don't have my 7 millisecond delay and my 7 dB gain, and my filters are not there. See, it's using a default setting, which I don't want, you see, because I want it to be consistent, to use my setting all the time. So I use the BEQ Designer, the merged app, the merged version, and I load up my BEQ files. So that's why I got 3 folders here. So if I go to my desktop, I will see BEQ final merged. So this tells me easily that, you know, it's the merged version. So if I go in, I can choose my Invisible Man, and I just load it to BEQ, open, and I'll see, you see, mute comes back. You know, so that is my original setting. See, I muted the rest of the channels. When it's not in use, it's best to just mute it, you know. It's much better that way. Then you can have a look at this. Now, the good part with the WIDG is that, you know, you can actually see how the signal is going here as the movie plays back. You can check whether there's any signal clipping and things like that. So if you're using your subwoofers, then, you know, you can actually tell what's going on in the background. So basically that's about it. Pretty straightforward. Nothing much. You just need your mini DSP, and then you need to download the BEQ Designer. Of course, you need to dial in your subwoofers, and of course this is another difficult process. It's another subject for another day, how to connect the WIDG. But if you don't have, you just use a cable, plug it into your USB connection, then just connect it on, and then load in the filters from here. Sit back and enjoy your movies. You know, yeah, that's about it. All right, thank you. Hope you enjoy it, and definitely go for BEQ. Okay, it shouldn't stop you from going this approach. It's fantastic. It's definitely worth your time. This 20 minutes video, hope it helps you speed things up, you know, and have fun. Stay safe. Bye.